Good morning, everyone. This is Becky here at Aunt Beck's Creations, and I'm going to announce this week's stitch. This week's stitch is called the Crochet Granny Spike Stitch, and it's brought to you by the channel Hooked by Robin. And getting my notes, I should have had this open before I started. You need to do, because we had that really chunky fat row last time, this stitch is kind of the same width as the shell stitch, but it calls for a repeat 4 plus 1. So what happens is you might have to start or end your rows slightly different than she does so that you can keep at your 132 stitches. I ended up at the first I did the single crochet row, and I counted all my stitches, and I had it at 132. But then I followed her stitch, and I actually ended up adding 3 stitches by the time I'd done 3 repeats. So each row I was adding an extra stitch. So what that would tell me to do next time is, where at the end she says to do 2 stitches, do only 1. And then that way you won't be adding to each row. It's a wonderful stitch. It's another one that works up pretty if you switch colors each row. I'll show you mine in just a minute. Let's see what else. I started with a single crochet. Then I went into her tutorial. I did 3 rows, and then I ended with single crochets. But before I did that row of single crochet, I verified my stitch count again, and then in the single crochet row at the end, I got my count back to 132. Okay. I would count my stitches at the end of each row to make sure you're staying at 132, because if you do exactly as she says, it's going to grow by 1 stitch each row. I hope that made sense. Anyway, let me show you what mine looks like. It's getting to where when I roll it up, it takes up a little space. Okay, I drew up a loop. Okay. It's a pretty row. And this would make a really pretty striped blanket, don't you think? So there's our fat stitch from last week that we got from Naughty Crochet. And then this is by Hooked by Robin here. So it's basically a granny stitch, but in the center of each of the granny bits here, you drop down to the center stitch of the previous shell. So you can see you do 2 regular stitches with 1 that drops down and grabs the top of the center. Easy. The only thing you have to be mindful of is your count. So verify your counts. And then I did single crochet, 3 rows of the granny spike stitch, and then I ended with a single crochet to set me up for my next row. So that's what mine looks like now, and I enjoyed switching it different colors. I might have to do something crazy with my blanket to even out the wonky edge, but I'm still having fun learning the stitches. So there's your stitch for this week, the crochet granny spike stitch. All right, have fun. I'll see you next week. Bye.